Hello everybody, it's Owen here. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it is your first time here. Today's the much anticipated, long awaited video, Oilers vs Stars series preview for the Western Conference final matchup in the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs, a rematch of last year's Western Conference final between these two teams, which saw the Edmonton Oilers advance to the Stanley Cup final in 6 games. Obviously, I am a bit nervous. This is going to be no question about it, toughest matchup that Edmonton has had so far through these playoffs, but it's one they can definitely win if the way that they've been playing through these first 2 rounds continues. A couple things that I want to make very clear before we move forward, and I want to say these things right at the start of the video so that people who only watch for maybe 5 minutes hear and see these things. First and foremost, I am going to be using a lot of statistics in this video. I would say more than I usually do use when I do analysis or series previews. All of the statistics that I am going to use in this video are subject to change. Just because things have been this way through 2 rounds for these two teams does not mean they're going to remain that way through the next round. The next disclaimer, I think this is a 50-50 split percentage chance for each team to win this series. If you really wanted the truth out of me, I think it's a 52% to 48% in Edmonton's favor. A very, very slight split. Yes, I can see Dallas winning this series in 4, 5, 6, or 7 games. Don't get me wrong. I could also see Edmonton winning this series in 4, 5, 6, or 7 games. And I know that sounds really like... Okay, if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't see Edmonton or Dallas winning this series in 4 games, either of them. But I could see both teams winning in 5, 6, or 7. And I know that sounds like, oh, obviously, but I genuinely mean it. And I think the X factors in this series are so important, and I'm going to get into that as we move along. So now that that's all out of the way, I'm going to come out and say my series prediction before anything. I think the Edmonton Oilers are going to win this series in 6 games, just like they did last year. To start off, I usually don't do this. I think the Oilers, the games they're going to lose, in my opinion, is game 1 in Dallas at home. I think the Oilers are a team that in the past has shown us that when they get a lot of rest, when they're gone from playing for a significant period of time, they tend to have a really rough first game back. I think that's going to be the case tomorrow night. I am recording this video at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, so the game is tomorrow. I think they're going to come out slow and sluggish, a little bit rusty. They might, have a good second or third period, but they might have a really rough first, and I think that's where they're going to lose. And then I think the Oilers are going to lose game 3, which is I believe, a 1 p.m. game in Edmonton. I don't know who the hell thought of an afternoon playoff game when there's only 4 teams left. I understand you want to do an afternoon game when you have the first round going on and there's 4 games on and you want to have a game on at noon. Why we're doing a matinee matchup in Edmonton when there's only 4 teams left makes absolutely zero sense. I believe that Dallas and Edmonton is the farthest distance between 2 teams in the playoffs until the Stanley Cup final. So, obviously, we know how far the distance was between Edmonton and Florida because of last year. So, the fact that these guys are going to have to travel from Dallas to Edmonton after the game on Friday night and then play in the afternoon the next day is absolutely absurd. And by next day, I mean Sunday, because they're obviously going to land during the night on Saturday. Anyways, I think Edmonton's going to lose games 1 and 3. I think they'll win game 2, bounce back, and I think they'll win 3 consecutive games after losing game 3. Now, you might think that that's insane to say. The Oilers lost games 2 and 3 last year. They won game 1, they won 3 straight after losing game 3, and won the series in 5, so in 6. So I think the same thing is going to happen. That's my prediction if you wanted me to give you a game-by-game breakdown. Without further ado, let's dive into the numbers. Let's dive into the lineups. That's the first thing we're going to start with, as per usual. Lineups. They're both up on the screen. I have them both pulled up on my screen here. As I mentioned in my series preview video for the Panthers Canes series, I am going to be using a daily face-off article in this video. It will be linked in the description down below if you would like to view it. I will also be using some statistics that I found on an Instagram page that I follow. It is not a promotion for this Instagram page. It is. I wasn't asked to promote it. I'm choosing to do so. That account will be linked in the description as well. I highly recommend giving them a follow. They are fantastic if you're into advanced stats. But let's dive into the lineups with the Edmonton Oilers first line first. Connor McDavid, Zach Hyman, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. The Oilers have done a lot of line shuffling throughout the playoffs. It's what they do. Chris Knobloch likes to shuffle lines around to adapt to different series and teams. This is the best first line the Oilers can ice in my personal opinion. Obviously, Draisaitl is better than Nugent-Hopkins and Hyman, and yes, him and McDavid playing together is great. But when trying to gain depth, it's nice to have Nuge on that first line, allowing Draisaitl to be the second line center. These guys are obviously just three really strong players. McDavid is the best player on the planet. He's currently sitting at 17 points in the playoffs through 11 games, so well over a point per game. Hyman has 8 points. Nuge has 9, so they're all producing. Hyman had some big moments against Vegas. Also, he's throwing the body around like crazy, which is something that is not unusual for Hyman, but at the rate he's been hitting guys this year, it's definitely increased. Versus the first line of Dallas, which is just very, very frightening. Roope Hintz, Mikko Rantanen, and Mikael Granlund in a complete finish line. Hintz and Rantanen have easily been Dallas's two best players in this series. Rantanen with 19 points, leading the playoffs in points. Hintz with 10. They have played 13 games, I believe. So a little bit more than Edmonton, but regardless, the numbers kind of add up. So Hintz is below a point per game, but Rantanen is well over a point per game, similar to McDavid and Draisaitl. I do think Dallas's first line is actually better. I don't think that any of the players here are better than McDavid, but you look at the consistency through the whole lineup, and it's just really, really, they're really talented. I think Granlund is a very underrated hockey player. He's got 7 points, also in Dallas's top 5 scorers for the playoffs so far. But you look at that, Hyman is the fifth best scorer on Edmonton. He's got 8 points. So the fifth best on Edmonton is actually tied with Dallas's fourth best in Wyatt Johnston. But I will say, actually, you know what? These first lines are tied in my opinion, just because of that. Moving into the second line, we've got Leon Draisaitl, Kasperi Kapanen, and Vasily Podkolzin. This line was constructed, I believe, in Game 4 against Vegas. So Kasperi Kapanen was a healthy scratch the majority of the playoffs up until that point. Kapanen, of course, scores the series winner against Vegas in Game 5 to send Edmonton to the conference finals. Compared to the second line of Matt Duchene, Wyatt Johnston, and Jason Robertson, obviously Dallas' second line is more consistent throughout. Draisaitl is better than Duchene, but Johnston and Robertson are both better than their winger counterparts on Edmonton. However, this line has been ridiculously underwhelming for the Dallas Stars so far through these playoffs. I just want to pull up the playoff stats really quickly. I should have already had this pulled up. I do apologize. Give me one moment really, really quickly. If we go to teams and we go to the Dallas Stars, I'm not sure if I can see. I might just have to go to skaters. Okay. So I'm probably going to have to scroll down quite a bit here to find any of these guys. Wyatt Johnston will fall into the higher area. I said he has 8 points. He's the 32nd highest scorer in the playoffs this year. Jason Robertson is not even in the top 50. Now, this is not really that surprising. Robertson didn't play for a majority of the first round against Colorado, but he has not been an impact player whatsoever for Dallas since coming back into the lineup. Since then, I apologize that I'm looking away from the camera so much. I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss Duchene's name, which I don't think I am. Matt Duchene also not in the top 50, which is pretty interesting because Matt Duchene had a really strong regular season for the Dallas Stars. If I look him up specifically so that I can tell you those numbers instead of pretending like I know them off the top of my head, give me one moment. I want to say he had a point per game this year. Why do I think he was a point per game player? Yeah, he was 82 points in 82 games. Look at that. Matt Duchene, an 82 point regular season, which is absolutely remarkable. He has 5 points through 13 games in the playoffs, hasn't scored a goal. The second line center on Dallas hasn't scored a goal in the playoffs. Is that subject to change? Of course. Will Matt Duchene score the first goal of the series for Dallas because I said this? Probably. But as of right now, looking at the numbers we have at our disposal, Matt Duchene has been a complete non factor for the Dallas Stars. So I'm going to take the second line of Edmonton at this point in time. Leon Draisaitl has 16 points so far in the playoffs, so he's doing much better than Matt Duchene. Obviously Podkolzin and Kapanen don't have as many points as the other two guys. Actually, that is not true. I believe Vasily Podkolzin has more points than Jason Robertson does in the playoffs. Um, Again, let me pull that up. I apologize that I was a little bit. He has 6 points through 11 games. I would highly doubt Jason Robertson has that many, but he also has less games played, so you have to cut the guy some slack. I hope I don't look like an idiot in about 2 seconds when this loads. Yeah, he's got 1 point through 6 games, and then Wyatt Johnston I talked about. He has 8. So it's kind of, I don't know. Like, I'm taking that second line. If, like, me personally, I'm gonna take Edmonton's second line just based on the fact that Duchene has done absolutely nothing of note for the Dallas Stars. Now, here's where things get interesting. Obviously, the depth on paper for Dallas is much better. You've got Mason Marchment on your third line, Tyler Seguin on your third line, Jamie Benn on the fourth line. Like, on paper, the depth is so much better for Dallas. But the problem is that these guys aren't performing up to standard, whereas all the guys on Edmonton are overperforming what expectations would have been. And that's why Edmonton's depth is better. Looking at the third lines, we've got Adam Henrique with Connor Brown and Evander Kane. If we pull up the statistics for these players, Evander Kane through the playoffs this year has 7 points in 10 games, which is pretty good for a third line winger. Adam Henrique, if we look up Adam Henrique, we're looking at a guy as the third line center who has 4 points in 11 games. Not great. And then the last guy, Connor Brown. Again, I apologize at all of these things. I mean, in all fairness, I would have had to have like 24 tabs open on my laptop, so I hope this isn't an issue. Connor Brown also with 7 points through 11 games, just like Kane. Tyler Seguin has 5 through 13. So Connor Brown is outperforming Tyler Seguin. Do we really need to look up Sam Steele to know that he's not going to have... Do we really need to look up Sam Steele to know that he's not going to be performing very well? Like, I don't expect the guy to be doing that great. I know he scored in Game 6 against Winnipeg, the tying goal, which eventually carried over to overtime. He's got 6 points, so he is slightly outperforming Adam Henrique, but the difference is he's played 2 more games. So if you subtract 2 points from 2 games, they're actually even at 4 in 11. And then, the last one, Mason Marchment, I feel like I've barely heard his name in the playoffs so far for the Dallas Stars. We pull up his playoff stats. He has to have more than 7 points, 4 and 13. So the third line in Edmonton is severely outperforming the third line in Dallas. Edmonton's third line has been better. And then Matthias Janmark, Corey Perry, and Trent Frederick versus a fourth line in Dallas that I'm not going to look up the numbers for every guy, but I can guarantee you that Oscar Bach or Oscar Beck does not have as many points as like Corey Perry. There's just no chance. Now, with that said, Corey Perry obviously played with McDavid for a time, and like I said, the lines have shuffled a lot for Edmonton, but Dallas does have better depth on paper. They do not have better depth statistically the way these playoffs have gone. Another thing to note is Edmonton, yes, they have played easier competition through the first 2 rounds of the Stanley Cup playoffs, as in we played the literal 2 top 5 defensive teams in the NHL in the playoffs, and all of our guys were producing. So, I don't know. That's just the way I look at things. So, I think Edmonton easily has the better forward depth. I have some more numbers to dive into. I pulled these from Jason Gregor, who is an Oilers writer, and I believe Tyler Yaremchuk on Oilers Nation. Rantanen has scored 6 of Dallas's 15 forward goals at 5-on-5, which is over 40%. There's 5 guys with multi-goals at 5-on-5 for Dallas. The Oilers have 9 guys with multi-goals. When Hintz and Rantanen are on the ice together, Dallas is outscoring their opponents 7-2. When it's just Hintz, it's 0-0. When it's just Rantanen, it's 4-2. Dallas is 11-4 in goal differential with one of Hintz or Rantanen on the ice. So as a total, 17-8. Sorry, 8-17 when they're both off. So Dallas is they're getting shelled when Hintz and Rantanen are not on the ice. When their first line is not on the ice, Dallas is getting absolutely shelled at 5-on-5. So in the event that Edmonton's depth, who have been the hands down best 5-on-5 team in the NHL through these playoffs, if these things continue, Edmonton is going to absolutely annihilate Dallas at 5-on-5 in goal scoring. If these things continue, they are subject to change. It's very possible that Matt Duchene gets 3 to 5 goals in this series. Like, I'm not saying these things won't happen because these numbers are telling you this. This is what the numbers are telling us right now. That's how I'm looking at it. I do expect some of the players in Dallas's core to wake up. I'm sure they're not happy they lost to Edmonton last year in the conference finals. I would expect them to use that as motivation to kind of like, hey guys, let's wake up and get going here. Bouchard also does have 4 goals. Nurse has 2. Wallman has a goal. So the defense is also contributing from a goal scoring perspective on Edmonton. Like I mentioned, the top 5 scorers on both teams, Rantanen with 19, Harley with 11, Hintz with 10, Johnston with 8, Granlund with 7. On Edmonton, it's McDavid with 17, Draisaitl with 16, Bouchard with 12, Nuge with 9, Hyman with 8. So Edmonton's top 5 scorers are consistently better than Dallas's top 5. Moving into the defense, which is also better in Edmonton's favor, and this is where, I'll start to throw up some... Actually, before we go into defense, the Golden Era statistics for 5-on-5 offense. And you can see it on the screen now. Edmonton with the better goals for per 60. They have the better expected goals for per 60. Edmonton is creating more high danger chances per 60 minutes. They get more shots on net on average per 60, and their quality of chances for per 60 is also higher. So in literally every category that Golden Era has brought up, Edmonton is doing better at 5-on-5. And now we'll get into the defense. Edmonton's D-core. First pairing Bouchard with Brett Kulak. This is the best pairing you can do with Evan Bouchard when Ekholm is not in the lineup. Kulak provides a steady stay-at-home defenseman for Bouchard, comparing to Dallas's first pairing of Harley and Heiskanen. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that pairing is not better. Harley has been absolutely phenomenal in this whole year for Dallas, especially since Heiskanen got hurt, and Heiskanen is a top 3 defenseman in hockey. This is no question about it, the better first pairing. I also think that even when Ekholm comes back, this pairing is still better. I'm still taking Dallas's first pairing. Second pairing of Lindell and Ceci. Now, Lindell is a really good defenseman, but his advanced stats numbers have been really bad, and it's mainly because he has been paired with Cody Ceci for a large portion of these playoffs. Ceci is known for being an anchor. I watched it for 3 or 4 years on Edmonton. Honestly, I try not to count the time. They're both... Lindell's really good. Ceci's absolutely god-awful. When compared to the second pairing of Edmonton, we've got Darnell Nurse, who I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's better than Esa Lindell. He is slightly better than Cody Ceci. And then you've got Troy Stecher, who is better than Ceci, not better than Lindell. I'm going to give them a draw on that second pairing. And then the third pairing of Jake Wallman and John Klingberg, which has been the biggest surprise of Edmonton's playoff run so far. These guys have been so good together. Klingberg looks like it's 2018 again. Wallman has finally adapted to the intensity of playoff hockey, compared to Dallas's third pairing, which is Leon Bichel and Alex Petrovic. It's Edmonton's third pairing, no question about it. When looking at the Golden Era chart for defense at 5-on-5, Edmonton has the lower expected goals against per 60. They also allow less high danger chances per 60 minutes, less shots against on average, and the quality of shots against is in favor of Dallas. So Edmonton is allowing higher danger better quality opportunities for the opponent. It is a very small margin, but again, majority of the 5-on-5 defensive stats are in favor of the Edmonton Oilers through these first 2 rounds of the playoffs. Once again, yes, I understand that Dallas has played more difficult competition. I am just reciprocating what the numbers are. Because there was a lot of Dallas fans in my comments on TikTok that were making it very clear that that was the thing. I also said that on TikTok, and that's how you know people don't watch the whole video. Now for the goaltending matchup, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's even remotely close. The way Ottinger has been playing, it is not even close. Jake Ottinger is 5th in playoff goals against average with a 2.47. He's also 2nd in save percentage with a 9.19. Stuart Skinner is not good. Stuart Skinner falls in at a 8.84 save percentage and a 3.05 goals against average. So yeah, just it's night and day different between those two. If we talk about Calvin Pickard has a 8.88 save percentage and a 2.84 goals against average. So also not great in comparison to Jake Ottinger. Jake Ottinger will be the truest test as far as goaltending goes in these playoffs for the Edmonton Oilers, but they've so far completely picked apart both Darcy Kemper and Aiden Hill. Aiden Hill's a little bit very overrated. Darcy Kemper was a Vezina finalist this year, so do with that information as you will. Now, looking at the special teams, we've got again the Golden Era graphic on the screen. Dallas has allowed much less as far as the penalty kill goals against. Now this is very skewed. Edmonton's penalty kill was so bad in the first like 3 games against the LA Kings that this number is very much so skewed. Edmonton's penalty kill was actually quite good against Vegas. Edmonton does actually have a less expected penalty goals against, which is pretty interesting. As for the power play, the goals for Dallas does have the better goals for, so they're scoring more on the power play, which is not really surprising. Edmonton's power play has been pretty bad, quite underwhelming considering how good the personnel on their power play are, but they're expected to score more goals on the power play. So I think we can see that breakthrough on Edmonton's power play in this series. They're just going to need to continue to work on that penalty kill. And then I'll throw up the goaltending chart here from Golden Era. You can see all the check marks on Ottinger's side. It's not even close. He is just so good. He's been playing absolutely out of his mind. But one of the biggest storylines from last year was that Stuart Skinner outplayed Jake Ottinger in the conference finals. Now, I don't really see that happening again, but the Oilers are going to need Stuart Skinner to play more like his games 4 and 5 against Vegas self, as opposed to his games 1 and 2 against LA, to give us really any chance of winning this series. Now for the actual power play statistics. Edmonton's power play is currently at 25%. So, they, in theory, score once every 4 power plays, which is not good. Their penalty kill is 66%, which is also not good, but again, highly skewed from that LA series. Dallas has a 30.8% power play, which is very good, and an 86.1% penalty kill, which is not bad. In a smaller sample size, it's not bad. Obviously, it's much better than Edmonton's, but again, we're taking into consideration very small sample sizes. So the X factors in this series. The X factor for Dallas is easily their second line, mainly Jason Robertson and Matt Duchene. If those guys can wake up and start to produce at a better rate for Dallas, they are going to have a much easier time, and especially if they can level the playing field as far as depth scoring goes. The X factor for Edmonton is easily Stuart Skinner and how well he is able to perform for Edmonton in goal. We still don't have Calvin Pickard back yet, I believe. I'm not sure when he's expected to be back and ready to go, but obviously you're going to ride out Stuart Skinner considering he finished the Vegas series so hot. As for Mattias Ekholm, he is expected to be back, I think, by game 4, but you never know. He maybe could come back a bit earlier in the series. And that will be massive. That's why it's very important for Edmonton to be at least tied in this series going into game. Obviously they can't be tied going into game 4, but you need to at least be. If you're going to be down, and I expect them to be down through the first 3, I think they'll be down 2-1 in the series. Like I said, you need to be down 2-1, not 3-0. If you can be up 2-1, perfect. But try to put yourself in a good enough position where if Ekholm comes back, he can maybe help flip the script for you in the series. Regardless of what happens, I think this is bound to be one of the most, if not the most exciting series in these playoffs. These two teams are familiar with each other. They're both ridiculously talented. We're looking at the Conn Smythe favorites in Mikko Rantanen and Connor McDavid going head-to-head. It is going to be amazing to watch. One other thing that I forgot to mention that is somewhat of an X factor. Leon Draisaitl obviously has been injured for a majority of these playoffs, or actually for all of them. He is still producing at a pretty good rate, but his defensive game has been one of the biggest highlights. He was able to completely shut down the Jack Eichel line in the Vegas series. So hopefully if his assignment is the Mikko Rantanen line, I don't expect him to completely shut them down, but if he can withhold how many goals they score and how much they're able to generate, that would be absolutely phenomenal. The other thing you could do is put him against Duchesne's line, who is already struggling. And if he continues to maintain his strong defensive game, that might not allow that line to ever really get going. So I think that's another really important thing to kind of look at as well. Um, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for thinking the Oilers are going to win this series. It's exactly like it was last year. Nobody thought Edmonton was going to win last year. Everyone was betting against them. I picked Edmonton to win in 6 last season. I think they're going to win in 6 again. I think they can win in 7, but I don't like our odds. Pete DeBoer is 9-0 in Game 7s in his coaching career, which is absolutely insane. So I don't like our odds if we go to a Game 7 against Dallas, but it's obviously possible. I think McDavid and Draisaitl learned a lot about what it takes to win Game 7s after the finals last year, and they were already pretty good at winning Game 7s as it was. I believe after that finals Game 7, they are 2-2 in career Game 7, so not bad. But if Edmonton is up 3-2 in this series and has a chance to close it out at home like they did last year, they need to do it. Do not allow Dallas to storm into your building and win that game, because that momentum will carry over into their own building for Game 7. So this should be an interesting series. If the offensive production from Edmonton continues at the rate it is going at, and Dallas's continues at the rate it is going at, I'm afraid this series might not be a 6-game series. And I'm being completely serious. So it'll be interesting to see how these two teams kind of adapt to each other. One positive note, Vegas actually led the league in goals off the rush. They were a rush-heavy team. Their rushing chances were what helped them score goals. Edmonton managed to handle them in 5 games. So the defensive strategy for Edmonton doesn't need to change that much, considering Dallas is second in rush chances to goals. So that's an interesting thing to kind of think about. Edmonton knows how to play that strategy. Limit turnovers, make smart moves with the puck, and don't allow for too many odd man rushes. That is the key to defending Vegas and Dallas. They did it so well against Vegas. I do think Dallas has more scary goal scorers, so it's a bit different in that regard, but the defending strategy can and should remain the same unless needed to be changed mid-series. So there's a lot of things that I think do favor Edmonton. They matched up really well against Dallas last year, so it's going to be interesting to see if they can continue to do that again this year. And I'm not nervous yet. I'll be nervous tomorrow for sure, but I'm excited. I'm really excited to start watching this series and see how it all plays out. Like I said, Oilers in 6. We'll hope I'm not wrong. We can come back and laugh at me, and we'll all have fun with it if I'm not. If I'm wrong. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a thumbs up. Comment down below your predictions and thoughts on this series. Like I said, the Instagram account Golden Arrow will be linked in the description, as well as the article from Daily Faceoff that I referenced slightly. And if you really enjoy my content, I would really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. I'm going to continue to pump out Oilers and hockey-related content all the way through. Like, we're talking into the summer. We'll do free agency videos. The content might be a little bit less in the summer because hockey doesn't have as much to talk about. But once free agency comes around, we'll have plenty of stuff to talk about. And if you're somehow not from my TikTok's also linked in the description. I post shorter videos of similar content there as well. So I think you guys would enjoy if you enjoyed this one. Go Oilers, go. And I'll be doing my post-game videos as per usual for the Dallas series as well. So stay tuned for those, and I will catch you guys all in the next one.